Hello and welcome to Almond Finance and Wealth Report, your source for latest happenings in the financial sector of the economy. I am Jennifer Obidiebube. On this edition of the program, the African Insurance Organization Conference and General Assembly (AIO) is a calendar event that brings all stakeholders in the insurance industry in Africa and beyond together to deliberate on ways to advance the business of insurance on the continent. The 43rd edition, with the theme African Insurance Amidst Current and Emerging Challenges, was held recently at the Palais de Congrès, Marrakech, Morocco. As expected, over 800 delegates were in attendance. Now, being an African event, the rich cultural heritage of the African continent was on display. So sit tight and relax as we bring you highlights shortly after the break. Please stay with us.
This is Insurance Industry Town Hall. This is No Holds Barred.
Apology to those who don't understand Yoruba.
Translate it.
It is not in one day that you feed a child that is kwashoko or that is malnutrition. But gradually you can see them recover.
Insurance is the last hope now in Nigeria.
My father want to start up, insurance. So I should forget about that. They are 419 people.
No, that
what my father told me, but I just push it aside. So let me go ahead. And what my father told me is what happened.
The greatest beneficiary of FX in this country is the financial institutions, which accounts for 48 to 49% average in the last 5 years.
This is Almond Finance and Wealth Report.
The theme of the African Insurance Organization Conference and General Assembly (AIO) is carefully chosen each year to reflect the direction of the insurance practitioners on the continent. The 43rd edition, with the theme African Insurance Amidst Current and Emerging Challenges, held recently in Marrakech, Morocco, provided yet another platform for insurers on the continent to brainstorm on how to boost the insurance industry in Africa, not just for economic growth, but most especially to better the lives of the citizens of the continent. In attendance were over 800 delegates from more than 60 countries. Welcoming delegates to the 43rd Conference and General Assembly, the immediate past president of the AIO, Mrs. Lama Ben Mahmoud, stated that in order to ensure Africa's future, insurers must devise strategies aimed at facing the continent's numerous challenges. No doubt today, the African continent is bedeviled with numerous challenges ranging from cybercriminality, political instability, insecurity with new wave of terrorist attacks, climate change, food security challenges, and a host of others. With the opening formalities over, delegates settled down for serious deliberations on the theme and sub-theme papers of the conference. The first paper session of the conference focused on regulatory trends in African insurance and reinsurance. The chairman of session was Mr. Nache Isofa, Secretary General of CIMA, Gabon. Speaker was Mr. Othman El Alami, representative of the Autorité de Contrôle ACAPS, Morocco. The second session of the conference paper focused on global terrorism and other political risks, impact on the African insurance and reinsurance industry. Chairman of session was Mr. Ali Harag, President Wafa Assurance, Morocco. Speakers were Mr. George Oteno, Chief Executive Officer, African Trade Insurance Agency, Kenya, and Mr. Alan Joe, Head of International Markets, Munich Re. In his presentation, Mr. Oteno said that insurers on the continent must find a way to make insurance as an intangible product more exciting for the consumers of insurance products and services on the continent.
Consumer education, trust and awareness. I think that that's key ultimately. We can have the most beautiful product, but we need to make sure that the consumer understands ultimately the value proposition, experience the product, and get excited ultimately about those products. Get excited about those products. We need to make sure that we find an intangible product and we make it tangible, because that's how we're going to create the whole traction that is needed to sustain and to enable this industry to fulfill its whole potential. Then professional development and training, very key. I think that we can do more when it comes to training and having professionals. We spoke about, the minimum requirement to probably be a broker, a minimum requirement to join our industry. Those are very important, and I think that we need to foster that and we need to enforce that. And we need to actually try to create standards across the continent and across languages, whether someone speaks French, Portuguese, Spanish, or Arabic, for instance. Point that I wish to touch on now a very, I would say, controversial topic. Terrorism. The key question is always, first of all, can we define it and can we insure it? So when I look at a couple of definitions, for instance, within the US we have a certain definition, in France naturally another one, and in the UK I just took 3 examples. But I like to put things in a very simple manner. From our perspective, it's very much viewed as a premeditated political violent act to generate fear, to influence the course of discussion. And that's my definition. It's far much simpler, it's far much shorter. So when I look at terrorism, the question is always, how can we design product for us and by us? Let's start by looking at the whole impact. We looked at what happened in the US in 2011, 9/11 as it's called. The insured property loss was $22.7 billion US. Then we can look at another more recent example on the African continent, in Kenya. Because sometimes when you look at those numbers, we say, hey, that can only happen in Europe or in Asia or probably in the US. But let's look at one specific case that happened in Africa.
Mr. Joe, in his presentation, employed African insurers on the need to form a pool to enable them retain a bigger share of written premium within the continent when it comes to big ticket risks such as political risk and terrorism.
There is not enough capacity for this business in Africa. As Joe had said earlier, most of it goes to the London market or international markets. Out of, like I say, the project, let's say a limit of 1.5 billion project limit insured, you'd find that what is retained in Africa would be less than 1% of that. Of course, for good reason, because most of these risks, you're talking about $250 million risk, with any investor who is going to put that kind of money would be keen to know who are the underlying insurers. They would look at the rating, they want to know who be able to cover them, and they can go to sleep. So that's one of the challenges, but I believe African insurance industry should look at possibilities of coming together, maybe forming a pool if they could, or other mechanisms as we've done before for other peak risks, which I believe if you go to general business, you'll find that you'll easily find a capacity of up to maybe $1 billion, for instance, from African reinsurers. But on PRI and terrorism, I think you'll be lucky to get a capacity of $50 million. So I think we need to find a way to make sure that most of the insurance organizations, companies were formed in Africa. In the early years, the idea was to retain as much premium as we can in Africa. So I think we should look at this class of business and see how we can find a way of retaining.
One of the high points of the AIO this year was the presentation of the Africa Insurance Barometer 2016 Market Survey. Prepared by Dr. Sanj Arms and Company, the project was commissioned by the AIO Secretariat in Douala, Cameroon. The report, which is the first of its kind, draws on in-depth interviews with 28 senior executives of regional and international insurance companies and intermediaries operating in Africa. Through the Africa Insurance Barometer, the AIO demonstrates its commitment to improving the transparency of the African insurance market, as well as facilitating and encouraging an informed dialogue between market participants. The third session of the conference focused on the use of rating and the impact of sovereign rating on the insurance industry in 2016. Chairman of session was Mr. Sandale Sasheba Dalami, CEO, Financial Services Regulatory Authority, Swaziland. Speaker was Mr. Neil Gosrani, Director, Group Financial Services, Standards and Poor's. Panelists were Mr. Christian Herzog, Head Rating Agency and Group Supervision, Swiss Re Zurich, and Mr. Oye Hassan Odukale, Chief Executive Officer, Leadway Assurance Limited, Nigeria, who was represented by Barrister Adetola Adegbayi, Executive Director, General Business, Leadway Assurance Limited. In her submission during the panel discussion, Barrister Adegbayi stated that although rating is just an opinion, most investors in emerging markets use rating as an audit report when dealing with insurers.
Often, ratings are taken as what you say they're not. They're actually taken as a guarantee of the company. So therefore, if a local insurer is rated B or rated lower than B, the foreign investors who have assets in country don't want to use the local insurer. If you say it's not a recommendation, they take it as a recommendation, because when rating agencies come in, as you say, they go through, it's almost like an audit process. It's not meant to be an audit, but the investor takes it as an audit anyway. So those are the practical sides of rating and its impact on the local market. Now, when we look at the local market, we come into a situation where, there's almost a tussle between trying to ensure that local capacity is enhanced, trying to ensure that the final consumer of the products we sell, or the final consumer of the securities we present, is comfortable with the local company. And also within our regulators have the challenge as well, trying to satisfy the ultimate customer by saying that, based on, I'm using Nigeria as an example because I don't know about other markets, trying to say that we appreciate your concerns. So if our local insurers are going to reinsure facultatively, we expect them to reinsure in accordance with S&P ratings or AM Best ratings. Despite that, we still come into situations where investors are still not satisfied.
In his own presentation, Mr. Herzog raised a thought-provoking question on the all-important role of rating agencies.
I think governments can support, can benefit from those, to have an insurance in place in the case there is an event, because it would mitigate a potential downgrade pressure. And then I wanted to end up here with questions, as you can see here, because sometimes I ask myself, who rates the rating agencies? Because I know the regulation should do it, but sometimes they have a quite, again, as you have heard maybe at the beginning of my presentation, sometimes I ask myself, it's quite a monopolistic position they have. You have 4 global rating agencies. And if you would take out AM Best, because they are focused on the insurance sector, you would have only 3. So how much competition, how much real choice do you have? And who is controlling them? I know regulation tries it, at least in Europe, and in the US, there's coming more and more pressure, but still I believe more has to be done. So that's the reason I put this small cartoon on.
The last paper presentation of the conference focused on solutions to major challenges of indexed agricultural insurance in Africa. Chairman of session was Mrs. Fatwa Assar of the World Bank. Speakers were Mr. Nicolas Chatelain, Partner Re France, and Mr. Papa Ndaye, CEO Sinas Senegal. With the paper presentations over, day 3 of the conference started with the General Assembly. The General Assembly of the African Insurance Organization provides opportunity for the various committees and associations to brief the House of their activities. Kick-starting the reports to the General House was the Secretary General of the AIO, Madam Prisca Suarez.
Membership drive. Grow membership by 15 to 20% by 2019. And market in countries with few members and companies in non-member countries. This is ongoing. Identify and market potential members in all countries. This has been done in Mauritius and Uganda and will be continued as required. Under capacity development, Item 2, expose staff to appropriate training. This is ongoing. Organize seminar on solvency, risk-based capital for supervisors and practitioners. This is supposed to be achieved by first half year of 2016. A seminar on risk-based capital was scheduled for February this year, but it has been postponed due to unforeseen circumstances. But we expect to do that before the end of the year. Item number 8 on the next page, retain annual book award. Calls were made for submission of entries, and the winner will be announced by the panel later. Institute Scholarship Award for Actuarial Studies. Announce criteria and set up panel. And modality is being worked out for that. Options available are being studied, and it is expected that by the next General Assembly we will have a report to present on that. On the next page, under communication and brand development objectives, item number 2, publish news on developments in various markets. This is ongoing. As we receive information, we publish on the website, and some news items also that we receive have been published in the AIO magazine. Continue to publish African Insurance Journal annually. This is being done. Continue to publish the AIO annual review. That also is ongoing, and both publications have been circulated to members at this conference.
Some of the committees that briefed the General Assembly about the activities were the Energy Pool, the Life Insurance Committee, the Book Awards Committee, and a host of others. The final curtain call at the 43rd AIO Conference and General Assembly was the spectacular dinner and investiture of Bacha Bado as the president of the African Insurance Organization AIO in the next 1 year.
I wish you a most successful tenure. Congratulations.
Félicitations, madame. Félicitations.
On applaudit encore une fois maintenant M. Bachir Betou. Félicitations et bon courage pour votre nouvelle mission.
Aside investiture, Delegates were also treated to delicious cuisines and an array of entertainment, including flame blowers and traditional Biba folk dances. No doubt, the 43rd African Insurance Organization Conference and General Assembly was a huge success. The stage is now set for the 44th edition, which will be hosted in Uganda in 2017.
This is Insurance Industry Town Hall. This is No Holds Barred.
Apology to those who don't understand Yoruba.
Translate it.
It is not in one day that you feed a child that is kwashoko or that is malnutrition. You know, but gradually you can see them recover.
Insurance is the last hope now in Nigeria.
Because my father want to start up, insurance. So I should forget about that. They are 419 people.
No, that's
what my father told me. But I just push it aside. So let me go ahead. And what my father told me is what happened.
The greatest beneficiary of FX in this country is the financial institutions, which accounts for 48 to 49%, average in the last 5 years.
This is Almond Finance and Wealth Report.
Alright, welcome back. No doubt, the insurance industry on the continent must brace up to surmount the current and emerging challenges for a prosperous Africa. And that's all we can take on this edition of the program. Many thanks for being a part of it. Many thanks also to our senior correspondent, Faith Uwode, for bringing us all the visuals. As always, for sponsorship details, do feel free to contact us on 01-7763-981, 080-335-7879 or 090-9685-2685, or you can send us an email on almond4xx@yahoo.com or almondproduction@gmail.com. Visit our website on almondreports.com and like us on our Facebook page, Almond Finance and Wealth Report, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Almond Reports TV, to view past episodes of this program. I urge you to join us again every Wednesday by 9:45 a.m. live on Niger FM 102.7 for our Pidgin English program, Waiting Insurance They Do Sef. You can also reach us on WhatsApp on 080-335-7879 and join the conversation on Twitter at Madam Insurance. This program also airs on BCOS Television every Thursday by 6 p.m. for those in Ibadan and environ. Until we come your way next time, my name is Jennifer Obidiebube, and from all of us here, it's goodbye.